Welcome to By George, an 80 Players podcast here at the George Theater. I am your host and marketing associate, Miranda, and today I have with me...
I am Sharna Burgess from Dancing with the Stars, and I am so excited to be here chatting with you today.
I'm so excited to have you here today. So I want to ask you, how has it been being in Houston so far? Have you been in Houston before? Or?
I've definitely been in Houston before, and I love it, honestly. It's been a whirlwind trip this time, getting everything ready and set up for Esther. It's made it so very exciting to be here, to be in this beautiful theater, to see the space, to do the costume try-ons, to like all the things, to really start talking about it, hearing some of the music I haven't heard yet. Like it is just it's been the most beautiful, like, what is it, 2.5 days, I think, that I've been here.
Yeah.
And super exciting. I haven't got to see much of Houston yet in this trip. I do believe I was here on tour with Dancing with the Stars. I've always loved Texas as a whole, but I don't remember anything specifically. So I will take all the recommendations. And now that I have so many kids, that I will need all the recommendations to do with my kids for this break.
How many kids do you have now?
We have 4 at home with us.
Gotcha,
so we have a 12, 10, 8, and 8-year-old, and then also Zane, who is 2 years old.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. Do you do a lot of like traveling with them all together, or?
We do, honestly, when we can. We'll take them. We've taken them to Australia with us.
Yeah.
We've taken them to Hawaii on trips. For work, not necessarily, because it's like it's easier for them to just be home when you're working.
And what are they going to be doing while,
Right. But this is summer break for us. So the whole family is going to come out and visit often.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which means it's going to be a good time. They'll get to explore Houston as well.
Cool. Can you tell me a little bit about, so I know that's what we've been hearing is that you were on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
Can you give me a little bit of background story before that? I mean, I know we kind of did our promotional videos and who inspired you to get into dancing, but what was that process like in going to school?
That is a long story right there. That is no short story to tell, but the shortened version, believe it or not, is that I started dancing when I was really little. My grandma was the inspiration for dance, specifically for ballroom dancing. I was a high-level world competitor. I represented Australia at the World Championships. And then when I was 18, I moved to London on my own because I knew that was where the world's best dance coaches were. And I was living in London, and it was really hard. I didn't come from money, so I was working 3 jobs to be able to afford to dance over there. And everything that I saved went nowhere because the Aussie dollar had nothing on the pound at that point. And it was tough. It was a really tough 2 years, but I loved dance. And when I was trying to figure out how to continue with it, because my visa had run out, I got offered to join this show called Burn the Floor. And I really, by this point, theater was never on my radar. I was going to be a world champion ballroom dancer. And part of me was like, making money from dance? What do you mean? That doesn't seem...
Not possible.
That's not possible. And so I was like, all right, well, we'll do it for a period of time. I'll do it for a period of time, make some money, figure out my next move. And then when I hit the stage for the very first time, we were in Singapore. And I will never forget that feeling of being on a stage and performing for people instead of on a dance floor competing and fighting for a placement in a competition. And getting to see the joy that dance brought to people, the joy that it brought to me to be on stage like that. And I was like, oh, I think this is what I'm meant to be doing. And that like period of time I was going to do Burn the Floor ended up being 6 years, which ended up on Broadway in 2009. And that was where my life changed again because of that moment. Dancing with the Stars knew about this ballroom dancing show that was happening in Broadway. And of course, they want to recruit all the good ballroom dancers. They came to see it. And they put out an offer to myself and a couple of others. At the time, I was still contracted with Burn the Floor, doing a European tour. And the next time I spoke with Dancing with the Stars was early 2011, and they still wanted me on. And so I joined for the fall season of 2011. And it's wild how all of it happened, just one thing after the next. I couldn't have planned it. I didn't even know I could have dreamt it. You know, it was... And it's given me a life that is more beautiful than I could ever have imagined. And, you know, I now have met the love of my life and I have babies here. It's just crazy how it's all unfolded, and all because of dance, you know, and following my love for it.
Yeah. What would you say to anybody out there who might be struggling being an artist, and it's shaky ground that we walk on?
Yeah.
Any advice that you give to somebody chasing that dream or who might be wanting to abandon that dream?
Oh my God, I wanted to abandon my dream so many times, but I think the difference is this. If you feel it when you wake up in the morning that this is what you want to do, if you feel it when you go to bed at night that you're dreaming about it and this is what you want to do, even though you feel like maybe you should quit, there is that inner voice that says, hold on,
Yeah.
then hold on.
Mhm.
If you want it, everybody says, if you want it bad enough, it will happen. Yes, it will happen in some capacity. And maybe you have to adjust your expectation or what that dream is going to look like. You have to allow it to be flexible, to move in a way that you could never envision for yourself.
Mhm.
You know, I think when we become so stuck on what something is supposed to look like and be, you can close the doors to other opportunities. You don't know what you don't know. You
Right.
don't know what you're capable of.
Mhm.
And so that dream that you start with could become something bigger and better than you could ever imagine, just like my own.
Right.
You know, and that's not to say that being a world champion and owning a dance studio wouldn't have been an amazing dream.
Right.
It was an amazing dream.
Mhm.
And it led me to something that felt even more aligned with me
Mhm.
in this life that I live now and getting to perform and entertain and create. So I think it is, if you truly feel the passion for it, for the art form that you have, just know that that is enough. Stay passionate, stay focused, stay in it, and stay flexible for what it looks like when you make it to greatness.
Right. I love that. So a little bit of history about me. I don't know if Jesse explained it when we first walked up. I was in the middle of trying to get everything ready, so I'm sorry I was
Busy
sweating.
woman. It's all good.
I was. But so I went to Houston Christian University just down the street, and I studied cinematic arts. So my goal was to go into the film industry, and I had never done anything with theater before. I went to a really small high school, really small college, didn't have a theater program. And our audiences know this, and they love it when I say it over and over again.
Yeah.
But Jesse was my professor, and so when he left and he came here, it was a thing of like, I had known him and he saw the good work that I had done and so brought me along. And that was really tough at that time to be, I have no idea anything about theater. This is a completely different world. Then it felt like a completely different world.
Right.
But coming into marketing, I still get to use a lot of those same skills. And I still find myself on days, is this what I want to do? Is this where I need to be? But I kind of think of the overarching picture of how I got here. And so I wasn't going to stay in Houston when I was going to go to college. I was going to go to Austin. I was going to go to the big film, or I was going to go to LA or something like that. But something kept me in Houston. And then something led me to meeting Jesse and having him being my advisor. And I had to take all of his classes.
Yeah.
And then led him to coming here and then led me here. And so when I look back at it, I see that, yeah, it really is about being flexible, and it's about staying passionate. Even in those struggles, because even if you feel it, and I do, when I get to do things like this, when I get to just sit down and have conversations with people, this is what I live for. And so I think that's hard, though, to tell people to stay flexible, especially in a world where we deal with anxieties and we deal with just constant change. We want stability. And so I love that. You said flexibility. That's my new thing now.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I love hearing your story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I want to know, because you were on Dancing with the Stars, and I feel like that's what everybody says that, I mean, they know you from Dancing with the Stars. Does that ever get tiring to hear that?
No, oh my God, no, never. You crazy. Like, this is still again, that whole story of how I ended up here.
Right.
It's still a wild thing for me to be going through an airport or wherever it is, and someone's like, oh my God, can I take a photo with you? And every time, honestly, it makes me feel good. I'm like, absolutely, of course you can take a photo with me. And, you know, I loved when we would do the Dancing with the Stars tour, and I got to meet so many people, you know, going across the country. We would do these meet and greets. And there were some people that were like, oh, meet and greets, they're exhausting. But for me, I was like, no, meet and greets are unreal.
Yeah.
Because I get to see firsthand how much Dancing with the Stars and this show that I'm on positively affects people. And it's not about people being diehard fans or obsessed with a person. No, it's about what dance does and what it makes them feel and what those stories light up for them. And that is, my God, that is something that I didn't know dance was going to do, that this dance show, Dancing with the Stars, it's incredible how it put ballroom in the living rooms of people and made this old school style cool again.
Yeah.
But the way it's brought people together and given inspiration, that feels so good for me. And part of my soul, and I think I'll end up doing so much more of it later in my life, I have desires for a lot more philanthropy in my life. I want to do so much more good and create more change. So I think it serves that piece of me that's not being served right now, of knowing that I'm creating inspiration and change with just what I'm doing so far.
Right.
Yeah.
But I want to know now, since you've been off the show, how have you kind of kept that spark alive? If there are any other side projects, or I know that you have a podcast as well, Oldish. How does that come into play with everything?
Oldish is a completely different experience. So as far as keeping the Dancing with the Stars and dancing experience alive, I judge it in Australia, which is an incredible gift to be able to be on that side of the table.
Right.
I have so much to offer because of my years of experience of teaching so many different bodies to dance, right? Everybody learns and receives information differently. Everybody had a different story to tell. My experiences, I feel like I get to share now and watch this younger generation of pros coming up, and to know that I can help them with the things that I've learned is really freaking cool. And then the honor of being able to sit on that side of the table is huge for me. So being a part of the brand and the franchise in that sense is very, very special to me. Oldish, our podcast. So Oldish is just a really fun experience of hanging out with my fiance and a really cool friend of ours, Randy Spelling, where we just talk about stuff that matters to us. And the way that it's formed and shaped, I will say in the beginning, because we're now independent, we started with iHeart.
I see.
And to be honest, and I love iHeart, there's nothing against them, but they wanted it to be much more of like a gossipy thing. What's happening in our life, bringing our personal stories into it, getting media hits on it is a great thing. And I so get that for selling a podcast. But for us, it didn't feel authentic to just be trying to bring our own personal life into it all the time. Like every week you're doing an episode. What have you got left to talk about?
Exactly.
And you want to keep some things for you too. And so we redirected and really started talking about big and deep things that matter to us, life things, life changes, kids, parenting, manifesting, growth, alcoholism, grief, like whatever it is, we bring in all the subjects. We'll bring in specialists to talk about it. We'll share our own personal experiences if we have those with it. But we really treat it as like, it's a conversation between friends. And we've had so many people come in as guests now, and they'll finish it and be like, that was so different. That was so fun. That felt like we were just all hanging out, having a good time, instead of feeling like they're being interviewed. And I think that's our magic, right?
Yeah.
We're just very warm, open, inviting people. We create a safe space, and we honestly just chat and have a good time.
Right.
And within that chat, amazing information comes out, and insights to things, or good laughs, whatever it is. So we're just filming our season 2 now, and we're about to release late June, 20-something of June. I should know that. I should be better at that.
Okay.
But anyway, Randy's usually really good at all the details. But yeah, we are launching later this month, and we've already filmed with some incredible guests. We now do video as well. We're in person. We have a home. We've got a Patreon and a Ghost membership now for people to get bonus content and all sorts of extra things. So it's really growing, and it's really fun to see how it's going to grow. And Brian, Randy, and myself have the dream of it turning into a live tour that can eventually go across the states and have these open spaces where people come and we can bring people up on stage and hang out and chat with us. We'll bring special guests in, but to really have it be a live in-person experience too. I
love this community that you're building.
Yeah.
I'm seeing in all of these kind of, I know we're kind of hopping around now, but it's really bringing these people together and hearing. I mean, I'm wondering if you're an extrovert.
I'm actually not.
That's fascinating.
So isn't that wild?
Yeah.
So I am absolutely a homebody introvert.
Gotcha.
But always since I was a kid, the minute you put me on a stage, or you put me in front of a camera, or you put a microphone in front of me, there is another part of me that unlocks. And it's not real. It is a very real part of myself, but she just hangs out just quietly and waits for her moment to shine.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the driving part of me and my personality is much more introverted, home life, and I love it. Like it's my favorite thing, and I certainly don't Like if I'm in social situations or if I'm at a party, I am not the life of the party.
Gotcha. Okay.
I will be a wallflower
Yeah.
or, you know, people are like, oh, get up and dance. I don't like dancing at parties. Like I don't know why.
Okay,
This
yeah.
other part of me is like, no, I don't want the spotlight on me, you know,
Right.
until I'm on stage and I absolutely want the spotlight on me at all times.
Yeah.
But like I definitely
Unless it's a competition.
Unless it's a competition because I'm not really a competitive person like
Yeah.
that. It's funny. I'm so two different people in that sense.
That's so fascinating. But I love the community that you're bringing together. And I like that in every
you.
aspect, it just feels like you're constantly trying to bring people together and hear their stories. And I mean, I think of, in the grand scheme of things, our world feels so divided currently. I mean, with Esther, and even right now we're doing Fiddler on the Roof. And we have already gotten so many messages on our social media and nobody's immune to it. And it's just nice to know that there are still people out there, obviously, even though it kind of gets lost in the chaos that is the internet, but that we're still bringing people together and that there are these safe spaces everywhere.
Yeah,
and you're giving people a voice. That's awesome. I love the idea of taking it on a tour.
Yeah, it'll be really fun. We're hoping we get to do that next year. So fingers crossed.
So I want to get into Esther a little bit.
Oh.
How... now, I don't know where you are in the process of it. It's something that's still kind of new to us. I mean, we've just gotten the script recently, and so we've read through it. We have our promotional materials. We're shooting that all today. How far in the process are you, and what are your thoughts on it so far?
We're years into the process.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
Rachel started this 7 years ago. Our creator, Rachel Stang, she started this 7 years ago. I connected with you 5 years ago. And we did our very first workshop.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that was, you know, after that whole story of like trying to get connected. And then I hear this music and I was like, why am I sobbing? This is amazing. And let me say that the music in this show is unlike anything else. And I'm such a music person. Music will make me cry, laugh, whatever. It invokes emotion for me.
Love it.
This music is the epitome of that in what it creates in the feelings for you. So I just have to say that David and Jeremy, our they're our writers on our writing team. They are just so phenomenal. And Dewey, also our writer who's written the story, they're just such an amazing team. So where we're at in the process, we have the story, we have the music, we are now building the show and we're getting everything ready to be here for the AD players. And it's a really exciting time because we are creating something that's essentially never been done before, right? A dance musical like this, using dance as the medium to tell the story. So we are finding our people. And what is really important is to have the right casting, the people that really are going to bring the magic that we need. And we're being really picky about it.
Yeah.
You know, and we've actually found some incredible talent here in Houston, I have to say. So impressive, the talent that's here. And we are right now just locking in the best of the best for us to move forward and put on the best show we possibly can. But I'm really, really excited about it. We are getting into in the room creating within a couple of weeks.
Wow. Okay.
So, and that is like, it's made it feel so very real too.
Yeah.
Because again, it was 5 years ago, we had COVID in the middle of all of this. So our timeline got extended by a bit. And then for a moment there, it's like, is it going to happen? Is it not? But Rachel, being the absolute powerhouse that she is, has been able to pull this together and make it happen. And people are excited about it, about something new, because how often do you hear about something new? It feels like everything's been done.
Right.
So it's scary and it's exciting and it's awesome. And it's an honor for me to be a part of it. So, yeah.
That's wild. I didn't realize that the process had been so long. And looking back, obviously, I mean, this is a passion project of y'all's. And so what has been kind of besides COVID, or maybe you can speak to COVID, getting through that process and continuing to take that leap with the project?
I think that is, you should absolutely have Rachel Stang on your podcast because she's an amazing woman and she has all those, she's the one that made it happen.
Gotcha.
I get to just like do the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. I don't have to make the hard decisions. I get to turn up and be a part of the creative process and being in it. And that's amazing. But she did all of the hard work in overcoming a pandemic. And, you know, it's all the things like having the team, the investors, the excitement because of the showcase that we did. And then through COVID, a lot of people's situations changed.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they could not invest what they had planned on and things. And theater took such a long time to come back after COVID. And so I think energetically, emotionally, mentally, that is for Rachel specifically must have been scary, exhausting. There a lot of pressure on top of that. How am I going to do it? Should I not do it? But as we talked about passion and bringing, you know, your dreams to life, Rachel obviously always felt, even though there was a voice that said maybe you shouldn't, she also heard the voice that said, hold on, keep going.
Yeah.
Now we're about to create something that's never been created before. And I think it is the beginning of something brand new and exciting that is going to take everybody by storm. And this story is relative all over the world.
Right.
The story about this woman is relative everywhere. And I'm really excited to tell it in this exciting new way.
I will definitely have Rachel come on.
You must.
In a future
You
episode.
must. She's amazing.
Oh, because that's where I being in film, and I love all of that kind of behind the scenes, and I'm a producer, and so behind the camera, this is the only time I'll get in front of a camera. But behind, so that's fascinating to me, but I'm glad that you guys have stuck with it. But with it being a dance musical, and again, I'll say I wasn't in theater. I didn't grow up, and I especially didn't grow up with any kind of dance training or understanding. Can you kind of give us an idea how one goes about watching a dance musical? What are we looking out for somebody who dance isn't in their day-to-day?
That's an amazing question. Look at you with these questions. There's part of me that wants to have all the right answers for you to give that to all of our people that are going to watch, but there's also the part of me that wants to say we want feedback on that.
Gotcha.
Because this is where we're putting it up on stage and we are creating something that's never been done before. And we have an idea of how people are going to understand it and digest it and how to make it make sense. But we really want to know from everybody that comes to see the show their feedback on, did you get the story? Did it make sense? Did it resonate with you? Did the music hit you in your core? Did you feel the story of Esther told through this medium? And I think that's really important for us to know. You know, we have big dreams for this show. We have big dreams of Broadway. We have big dreams of the West End. We want to take it to all these places. And to do that, along the way, we might make mistakes. We might look at it and go, oh, that actually didn't work the way that we thought it was going to. And for many musicals that you see on Broadway, that's what they've done. I was only just told the story about Wicked, how they had a workshop run and realized they had to rewrite the entire second act because it didn't work. And then now look at Wicked.
Yeah, exactly.
And so again, we have an idea of how this is going to work, but really what we need is for everyone to come and sit in that chair and be open to a new experience and then open to sharing their feedback with it on how they think it went. I hope that's...
No.
Okay. I'm like, I hope I can say that because I feel like I'm meant to have all the answers for you, but that's the honest truth of it.
No, and that's the other thing. You don't have to have all of the right answers. And I love whatever answers that you have. I mean, that's your truth. And I heard a podcast recently, that it's hard to say, I don't know, but it's necessary to say, I don't know. Yeah. But I think that's great. I think, we all need feedback. And sometimes it's hard to get that feedback, but when you are so passionate about a project and you want to see it succeed, we have to have those like difficult conversations, but also great conversations. Maybe everybody understands, like, yes, we have success, we've struck gold. Yeah. Well, I want to continue asking about dance because it's something that I don't again have on a daily basis. And I know I took a class on storytelling, and we did have a full week where we just watched people dancing and ballroom dancing and break dancing and
breakdancing, all the dancing,
all the kinds of dancing, and we had to find the story within it, and it was difficult coming from a film background or coming from now theater, because it's telling stories in a completely different way. It's quite literally showing, not telling. And so I'm wondering if there's anything specific that they should be looking out for. I mean, we had talked about it in kind of your promo videos. How important is facial expression to dancing? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So, and also to some of the other things that you said. So it won't just be like dance on a stage with Esther. Do you know what I mean? We have, again, I spoke about this incredible music. We have writers. So there is a script to it.
Gotcha.
And there is, our singers are telling the most incredible story through song. And I can't remember what the term is called when it's not singing, but it is recitative. This is a new word for me. I've learned something today. But it is told through song, but it's not necessarily always singing. And we do have I have a voice as Esther.
Mm-hmm.
'Tis not my voice, I shall be dancing.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a voice that tells my story.
I see.
And so it's connecting the movement with the words.
Gotcha.
And so it's not just watching movement and being like, what does it mean?
Gotcha.
It's like,
Okay.
no, my movement is the interpretation of the words.
Gotcha.
And when you marry those two things together and you're getting this, or three things, you're getting this beautiful story with the words. And again, our writers are incredible in the way that they have done this. And then you have this score, this music that invokes the emotion that these words are about, or the build for this situation, the scene that we're in.
I see.
And then you have me, my body, that is telling all of those things in a physical form, and I'm showing it to you. All those things just make sense. You don't need to look out for it. You don't need a magnifying glass. You don't need to squint to see it. Like, it will be so obvious and there on stage for you, because all those things are going to marry together to tell the story. And for me, my favorite thing with dance, and I discovered that this was my strength only on Dancing with the Stars, is telling stories. We used to have we used to have an episode called Most Memorable Year. And it was where our celebrity at the time would share a personal story with us. And the way the show worked back then, I would then find a song that I felt resonated. I would work with our creative team and create the set design, the feel, for it. I would just often edit the song and make it more acoustic, whatever, add sound effects in. You create the whole scene of it. And then I would put movement to that song that told that person's story. So my best example of this is Noah Galloway, a double amputee, Army vet, incredible human. We had Most Memorable Year. He was telling the story about when he got his injuries over in Iraq. And the story of him not being able to, the story of him coming to terms with his body now as opposed to what his body was then. And I came up with this idea of, he was standing there and I had a mirror come to the center of his body. So, and the camera placed in a certain way, so it doubled his right side, which had his full arm and full leg. And so it looked like, and then as we pulled the camera back and turned around, the mirror also moved, and we were then behind Noah, and he was looking at himself in the mirror as his body as he is now. And then throughout that dance, it told the story of overcoming adversity, of things being hard, of lifting things in the air. Like, it really, the movement told the story, but what set it up was that very opening scene of quite literally a man staring at himself in the mirror and coming to terms with what he sees. And so that is a perfect example of, it's not a bachata or a pirouette or it's not a dance move that told it, but it is a body that told it. And so throughout Esther, there will absolutely be sensational dancing, but there will also be movement with a body that tells the story that is much more human-like than it is a dance move. And I think having those two things in there, I learned through Dancing with the Stars, helps tell a story beautifully. And that's really what we're bringing here to Esther as well. The storytelling with a body is not just dance, you know?
That's wonderful. I had read the script and I had gotten that on some level, but I guess my nerves came in of like, I don't watch dance though. I don't know what I'm going to be
interpret
missing.
it? Yeah,
exactly. But it's a religious story. It's a Christian story. Do you identify as religious or as Christian?
I did not grow up super religious. I went to a Christian school. I did my communion, and there was another one when I was little. In Australia, the community, the religious community, and especially where I was, it was not like it is here. Absolutely, people have their faith, but it wasn't as big of a community. And that may be different now. I left when I was 18. But my experience of faith and religion, I sort of built over my life. I absolutely am a believer in God. I had never necessarily studied the Bible. We didn't have Bible studies. So the story of Esther was brought to me by Rachel. And then I got to know this story from not just a religious or biblical standpoint, but from the point of being a woman. And that is something that I could really put myself into and relate to. And so I don't have that history or an attachment to the story being necessarily biblical, but I think it is an incredible and beautiful and powerful story to tell. And the fact that it does resonate with people that have such a strong faith and did study it, that is also incredible and beautiful. And I'm really excited that I get to be a part of it, that I get to discover it for myself now from this standpoint of being a woman and understanding through times in my life what it's like to feel like the world is on your shoulders. You know, for her, for Esther, her story, it's a really big story. She had the weight of a people, the survival of a people on her shoulders. And she found a way within the means that she had at that time, the very few liberties that she had as a woman, the very few things that she could find power in, she used those to save those people and made the ultimate sacrifice. And I think it's just such an incredible, powerful story to tell about how powerful we are as women and what we are absolutely capable of. And so I think it's important to tell this story too.
As women, we do feel that. We do feel the weight of the world on our shoulders, but you're also a mother. And it was something we touched on at the very beginning. But how does that come into play with Esther? Your children are your people that you have to, I would imagine, I don't have any kids. Would imagine that they're who you have to look out for.
I totally understand what you're saying. And I think I connect even more to it now than I did when I first connected with Rachel and talked about this story. I think now I understand what it is like to know that I would absolutely put them before myself. I do every day. That I would put their life before mine in an instant, that I would and will do everything in my power to save them and give them the greatest opportunity and the greatest life possible. And so I do connect with it on that level. And it is amazing to know how powerful you are and how much you can. My God, as a mother, I've learned how much I'm capable of, how much love I'm capable of, how much protection and I'm capable, forward thinking, like just to plan for kids and to think, I've thought out their whole lives already. Do you know what I mean? Like they are my people and I want to do everything I can to create the best life possible for them. So I absolutely relate to Esther in a whole other level now being a mum.
Fascinating. I love that. I love that. What kind of going off topic now that you've planned out your kids' lives, and I'm sure already there's been instances of pushback on those plans. How do you handle something like that?
Oh man, I think being organized is amazing. Having plans is amazing. Being flexible is imperative. You absolutely have to. You can't control and you shouldn't. You also have to, I think, show kids that planning is amazing, organizing is amazing, have an idea of where you're going, but also be open to change. I think that is something as human beings we always need to be open to change. And so becoming a parent, more than ever, you realize things are going to happen that you don't expect. You plan for absolutely everything. The one thing you don't plan for doesn't happen. You know, you go on a trip, the one thing you don't take is the thing you need. Like you just have to go, okay, and fix it instead of, and especially with kids, okay, let's move forward and fix it. What is it? What happened? What do we need to do? Instead of just being like, oh, that's change or something happened or something went wrong. It's problem solving and it's moving forward at its finest at all times.
Man. Flexibility.
Right?
I know. It's going to keep coming back. And I think I found the theme of this episode is flexibility. And that's it's sometimes a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, it can be.
We are kind of in our last little section here.
Cool.
And so I have this lightning round questionnaire that I do. So my first question to you, performer, you've done a lot of, in all aspects, and you're a storyteller. What is one of the biggest mishaps that you've had on stage, off stage? One that keeps you up at night?
You know what? I don't think any of them keep me up at night because it comes with the territory, man. And I always say I am the clumsiest person on the planet. So I can dance, right? And on a stage and when there's a purpose and the things I know I'm supposed to do, I'm good. But in life, I can barely walk in a straight line. Like I will gravitate towards the person that's next to me. I don't know what, I'm just clumsy. Okay. I'll trip over things. I'll spill the water at the dinner table. Like that's me.
Yeah.
So on stage, what's happened? So on Dancing with the Stars, my most famous one was called Nipplegate, because I was dancing with Antonio Brown and I had on a black dress, which had mesh at the top and then like a sweetheart neckline underneath it. And it was fully zipped up, like high neck. Like how does this even happen?
Right.
But as we're dancing, the mesh obviously stretched. And I didn't realize, and we're standing there talking to the judges and it had slipped too far.
No.
And suddenly Tom Bergeron is standing in front of me staring at my eyeballs as he's like saying something and he's like pointing to me and making me lift up my top. And I was like, oh my God. And so the East Coast feed got the full frontal of it, but they fixed it for the West Coast feed.
Right.
But I'll never forget that. It was called Nipplegate and it went everywhere. And I was like, it just had to be me. It had to be me that had nudity on a family show like Dancing with the Stars. And then my on stage one, so funny. We were doing a tour and I came out and did the final bow and I was feeling so good about how loud my cheer was, right? These silly things that you attach to at the time. And it felt really good and I felt the energy from it and I'm living in that moment. I'm waving to everyone and I'm walking backwards and suddenly I didn't realize how far backwards I had walked and there was, from where the stairs come down, there was the bottom part of it. So it was probably like a 2+ foot high LED screen and I just went straight back to it. I went backwards, my legs went up. I looked like the Wicked Witch of the West with my feet just up in the air with dance shoes on. And that was all you could see of me, just my feet up in the air behind the screen. And you just saw these feet like roll to the side. And I got up and absolutely everyone was laughing because everybody saw it. Because I was like in my moment. And then I walked back and fell backwards. So that was pretty embarrassing. And the best part about that was that GMA, Good Morning America, was there. And they filmed it and then they aired it the next morning.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, we didn't want to hide that one.
So it wasn't just the theater that saw it. It was everyone that watches Good Morning America. It was a really special moment for me.
Right. How do you not let those keep you up at night?
Oh my God, I think it's funny.
Okay.
I think you have to be able to laugh at those things. To take yourself too seriously, I think in life as a whole, you're doing yourself a detriment. You have to be able to laugh. It's a part of that being flexible thing.
Yeah.
You are not perfect. You're never going to be, and you shouldn't be, because how boring is that? And it's a fun story to tell now, right?
Of course.
And when I am speaking to one of my kids that does theater, and they're nervous about how that's going to go down or doing something wrong, I share these stories about how awesome and how funny it was and how it's a great story to tell. I think having things like that happen in life, it keeps your feet on the ground. You know, it reminds you where the ground is.
Yeah.
And reminds you that you're human and mistakes are okay and being perfect isn't the goal.
Another hard lesson to learn. So that's one of the biggest mishaps. Has there been a time on stage where I never know what to call it, but it's the moment when you feel weightless, when everything feels like it's going perfectly and the music is right and the lighting is right, but that this is like why I do this. What was that moment, or do you have a moment where you just, everything came together and this is why I do what I do?
So many. Oh my God, so many. Many of them on Dancing with the Stars. Some of them on stage. And I would say sometimes they read like almost a blackout moment.
Yeah.
It's like you get to the end of it and you're like, wait, what happened? It was perfect because you're so present in it that you have no other thoughts. There's no ego speaking. There is no other voice in your head saying, do this, don't do that, do this better. Oh no, that happened. It is just, you are so present in every moment of the music and the movement and you get lost in it. And so it is a weightless feeling, but it's also a blink.
Yeah,
it goes so fast. And some of the other most incredible moments is where I'm much more present in it in a different way is dancing with celebrities. James Hinchcliffe's freestyle was one of those on that season, creating that moment for him where it was where he'd had an accident. He was a race car driver and he had a story about how he'd flatlined for like 4.5 minutes.
Wow.
And I told the story of what happened when he flatlined, where he went. I represented faith, hope, love, his desire to come back to the light. And there was a moment of darkness where he had to find his strength to overcome it, where he made us all become a part of him, the light and the dark, for this new version of him. I get emotional talking about the story because it was just so big and beautiful to tell, and it went perfectly. But I was present in it in a sense that I was watching him the whole time. So it wasn't for me. The performance wasn't for me. That I was watching this man nail it from step to step and be in it and bring the emotion of it. And it was like, oh my God, it's perfect. Everything's going so well. Everything's going so well. And we got to the end and I think I just cried tears because it was such a beautiful piece and he executed it so well. And his emotion was palpable, right? Like I felt his emotion. I felt what he was sharing radiating off of him. And I'm such an empath that there was no other option but for it to transfer to me. And so that whole experience was very, very special.
Yeah, to have that kind of impact and I'm also an empath, so I know exactly when you say that happens. I mean, in the goods and the bad, they take on a lot more than I probably should, but that's wonderful. You talk a lot about, I mean, you're a judge now for Dancing with the Stars and teaching. How has that played into your kind of, I mean, who you are?
I was teaching when I lived in London and I was dancing, and it was a job. It was teaching wedding dances or, beginners to dance. And I loved that, but I didn't find my passion for teaching until I was on Dancing with the Stars.
I see. Okay.
It was understanding what teaching is. It's not just telling someone how to do something. It spoke to my soul in a sense of it's nurturing someone in their experience of learning something new, learning something hard, learning something that makes them feel vulnerable. And in that show, learning something in front of America, watching them do it and being asked to perform it, and I realized it's not me telling you what to do. It's not me telling you the technique of a bachata. It is me figuring out what you need from me. How do you learn? How do you listen? Are you visual? Do you need words? Do you need me to look you in the eyes, or are you better without eye contact? People are so different.
Right. Yeah.
Do you need me to physically move you? Do you need me to show you? Do you need me to nurture you, guide you, or be a football coach for you? Like understanding how to see the human being in front of me and know that I could give them a life-changing experience with dance and that I just had to make it about them.
Yeah.
And I think I really found and discovered my nurturing side through Dancing with the Stars, and how I discovered absolutely that I was an empath.
Yeah.
Everything made sense from my 20s of like, oh, that's why I was so like, I felt so many things and felt chaotic at times.
Exactly.
And understanding it was, I'm actually receiving other people's energy and emotions. And that was a really big lesson for me, and then became one of my greatest strengths as a teacher on that show. And I love teaching. I don't necessarily have the desire to teach competitive couples ballroom dancing because, again, not really a competitor like that.
Yeah.
I am very much about the storytelling and the experience of it. And Dancing with the Stars was this special little pocket of time where I got to do all those things, tell stories, create, and teach in a way that made sense for me as a creator and creative. But I don't necessarily feel called anymore to that dream that I had once upon a time of owning a dance studio and teaching dance. But I do think my experience as a dance teacher on Dancing with the Stars has helped me in motherhood.
Yeah.
In being able to understand my kids. Certainly with my bonus babies, my step kids, I am so good at reading people. I know that I'm an empath. I got to learn them very quickly, to study them, who they are, what do they need, how do they need me, how do they receive me, and to be the very best stepmom that I could possibly be for them, because I didn't get that opportunity to know them from birth, but now I feel like I did.
Yeah.
And I think all those skills built because of my experiences on Dancing with the Stars and being able to understand, read people, and know how to teach, because ultimately teaching is guiding. Yeah. And that is what motherhood is anyway.
So that's why I ask about Dancing with the Stars. Does it ever get tiring to hear that, oh, I'm doing other things, we don't need to continue talking? I see it now, and I see it in every question and every topic that we kind of land on, how impactful it was, and
very much so,
and exactly how it has led you to this moment. And I love those stories. Those are my favorite stories. When you look back and you see that every step was supposed to bring you here and really bring you into full fruition. And I know I keep dancing around it and I'll repeat myself over and over again, but I love that story, and I love the impact that it's had, and that it's brought you here.
Yeah, it has. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Trust the path.
Another hard lesson. My final question is going back to Esther. Why should audiences come see Esther?
Because it's amazing. Because it's something new and it's exciting, and we're so excited about it because we're telling a story in a way that hasn't been told before.
Mm-hmm.
Because her story absolutely needs to be heard and be seen, and I think seeing it in this medium will show a completely different side to it. And I ask audiences that know the story of Esther and have studied it and have their version of it to also be flexible and be open to seeing this side of her,
Mm-hmm.
to know that we are taking a story and making it real. She is a real person. We are telling a real story, and the actions in that story have consequences, and the situations she's in when you put them in a real world are sometimes a little darker than maybe that story tells you.
Mm-hmm.
So to come and be open to this new story that is much more relatable and real than just a story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people will get to meet Esther, whether they know the story or not. They're going to meet Esther for the first time. And I think she's going to inspire a lot of people.
Love that. Agree wholeheartedly. Well, thank you, Sharna, so much for being on this episode of
Thanks
By
for having
George.
me.
I am so glad that I got to sit down with you. We learned some hard lessons, but I'm glad that I got to know you a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very excited for you to come back and for us to see Esther and for audiences to see Esther August 30th through September 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Be sure to get your tickets. Be sure to come and see Esther, the new dance musical.
And it's going to be my first time back on stage in a long time. So please come see me dance, and I can't wait to see you guys here.
This has been By George, an 80 Players at the George Theater podcast, hosted and produced by Miranda Zapes. Listen anywhere you listen to podcasts and follow us on Instagram at By George Theater. That's THEATRE. Sure to like, share, and subscribe. And By George, we'll see y'all next time. I'm just thinking of everything that led up to this week, and I've more personal, but just going through mental health struggles and things like that. And I think God puts people in our lives for certain reasons. I think we have certain conversations and certain things happen,
Absolutely.
obviously, and for a bigger picture. And so I think that this was definitely a conversation that I needed to have.
Uh-huh.
And while I'm so grateful that I get to learn more about you and get to talk about our show coming up, but flexibility is what I'll be taking from that.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.